man who is just absolutely in the thick of this rivalry, damn it. Arash Markazi joining us here. He's hanging out with LeBron James. He's covering the Rams. He's hosting great shows, sportingtribune.com. Arash, thank you for making time. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, in your mind, let's just start with the toughness factor. Do you think the Rams are actually tough enough to play in this Bears weather? Because we're looking for an edge here, Arash. We're seeing Matthew Stafford. We're seeing Puka Nacua. We're seeing Jared Verse. But we're leaning on the weather a little bit here in Chicago, Arash.
I feel you. You know, I thought the Rams would do something, and I'm not sure what they could have done, but to kind of practice in that weather. It is beautiful in Los Angeles right now. It is 70 degrees and sunny outside. That's the weather that the Rams are practicing in. The only thing that gives me some solace from a weather perspective, and it wasn't as cold, but it was snowing last year in Philadelphia in the divisional round. I know they lost, but that game really came down to like one play at the end. So, yeah, I mean, listen, I have a ton of questions in terms of how this team is going to fare in temperatures that when you factor in the wind chill and all that stuff is going to feel like below zero. They have not played in that kind of weather all season and in quite some time. So, again, you could practice in it. You could talk about it. I don't know how they're going to play when it comes to the game.
There you go. See, Braggs?
Yeah,
feel better.
It certainly will be interesting. I know some people suggested like maybe they should have come to somewhere around here earlier in the week, but I can understand not wanting to throw off your normal schedule and game week. You know, that being said, let's get into it. And obviously this is a heavyweight bout of two play callers of Sean McVay and Ben Johnson and all the X's and O's that, you know, these guys come with. But I'm curious about, you know, this whole situation that happened last week with Matt LaFleur. I know we certainly want to talk about what's going on the field, but Sean McVay was asked yesterday about his communication with Matt LaFleur, and he didn't hide from the fact that they're still in communication. How much of an edge do you think that gives him? I mean, it doesn't really feel like Sean McVay needs too many people's help, but how much of an edge there is that with Matt LaFleur, who, even though the Bears beat him twice out of 3 games, certainly had some pretty good moments coaching here, second half's withstanding.
I mean, there's a long line, there's a long history there with the LaFleur family and the McVays. Again, his brother is the current offensive coordinator. Matt LaFleur was previously the offensive coordinator of the Rams. They previously were assistants together in Washington. So, listen, I think a lot of these guys are friends. They're going to call each other regardless, but certainly with a situation like LaFleur, I'm assuming that they talk on a regular basis. You know, so I think the advice there is like, hey, like maybe we can finish the job, but how did you guys get a 21-3 lead in the third quarter? Maybe we can find a way to close it out. The thing that I'm really kind of interested with the Rams, and I was in the press box in Seattle, and I turned to a friend of mine when they're up by 16 points late in that game. I'm like, this team might steamroll through the rest of the league this season, and then the entire season flipped. And it wasn't just that game, guys. You know, they lose that game, right? But then they lose the following week to the Falcons. They're down late to a 3-13 Cardinals team. They had to come back late to beat the Carolina Panthers. So while a lot of people are high on the Rams, just as someone who's covered them on a week in and week out basis, I'm really curious, not just with the weather, how does this team begin? Because they have not started a game strong in at least 1 month.
And so that's the interesting part, because when you look at it, they are, yes, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but like, you know, from a Bears perspective, they're pretty scary up front as getting to the quarterback. But if you can block them up, you would think that they're going to have a lot of open receivers down the field. So, you know, Ben's scheming this up. I mean, in your mind, do you think that this game is more of a shootout, you know, like even with the cold, that this is in the 30s?
I would be surprised largely because of the weather, and a lot of it is because of the way that the Rams are playing. And listen, by the way, the Bears are kind of in that same, position there as you guys well know in terms of the way that they closed out the season, the way they looked in that first half against the Packers. So I would be surprised if this is a shootout. If it is a shootout, maybe it's a shootout like late, like after both teams get comfortable. I think both teams are going to be, I could be wrong here, a little bit conservative to begin the game. Certainly with the Rams, they want to get the run game going. Their entire offense, again, with all the headlines being Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua and the tight ends, if they can run the ball, that really sets them up to pass the ball well. But the offense just has not looked right for quite some time.
So that's the question. Does Sean McVay put an emphasis on running the ball enough? I mean, that's what I've kind of seen from Rams fans is this catch-22 of you have this prolific quarterback and passing offense, but they need to run the ball more. And from what I'm hearing from Rams fans, it feels like sometimes Sean McVay gets away from that.
100%. I think everyone was really excited, towards the end of the regular season, going into that Seattle game, that two-headed monster of Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. What could they do? And they've really gone away from that. A lot of that is when Kevin Dotson went down in Seattle. He's not going to be back for this game against Chicago, but the hope is that, if they do advance, maybe he will come back. So the offensive line has not been healthy. It's not, it didn't just come out of nowhere. The offense has struggled from the moment Kevin Dotson went down. The run game struggled. When Devontae Adams went down, the pass game struggled. So their hope is that maybe they've turned the corner. But yeah, I think a lot of the fans for the Rams are frustrated that even when they begin the game strong on the run game, Sean McVay just loves to pass the ball, right? So it could be a 2nd and 2, and he's going to want to pass. And so I think that's the frustration some fans have.
I'm just looking at the Seattle games specifically, and you lose the game we're talking about, but the Rams scored 37 points in that game. Yeah. Matthew Stafford threw for 459 yards. Puka Nacua had 225 yards.
He was
receiving.
Unreal that day.
Those numbers are terrifying. Now, in the game they beat them, that was the lowest scoring game of the year. They only put up 21. So I'm just trying to figure out the pathway to slowing down this offense, when they don't look like themselves. What would you say that is?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the pathway is to put Matthew Stafford in a position where he makes mistakes. And that doesn't happen too often. But, when he banged his finger against Carolina, I'm like, okay, he doesn't look like himself. Maybe he throws a pick. He did throw a pick, but can you capitalize on those mistakes? Whenever we have the MVP conversation, and sometimes one of the things that's a quote unquote knock against Matt Stafford is, well, they're the 5th seed. They didn't do this or that. Yeah, I mean, you go to that Seattle game, Matt Stafford, go right down to the fact that he threw a touchdown pass to Puka Nacua in the overtime period. I mean, he's done everything that he can do to help this team win. I mean, I would say the same thing when they lost to San Francisco at home. But if Chicago was to win this game Sunday, I expect a couple of turnovers, whether it's a fumble on a sack, whether it's a pick six, something like that. Again, when the Rams have had difficulty, again, you go to when they lost to Atlanta, when they lost to Carolina, it is putting the Rams in a difficult position where Matt Stafford gets pressure, makes a mistake. Again, it hasn't happened too often. I could see it happening perhaps in the cold.
Yeah, well, certainly the Bears have made their hay and getting takeaways. They lead the league in them this season. So
there you go.
One of the questions, I guess the good segue to what you brought up was that index finger of Matthew Stafford's. What are they saying in LA? How's that? How much of a concern is that for the Rams going into this game on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, Stafford and McVay talked to the media yesterday. They said that it's okay. Obviously, he's going to play. The x-rays came back negative. Again, they're going to say all the right things. We have not seen him play, obviously, and we're not able to kind of report on practices, but he has been a full participant in practices. But they're saying all the right things, that it's okay, it's all good, I'm going to be ready to go. Matt Stafford will be in that scuba gear because of the cold. So again, these are creatures of habit. I mean, how is he going to play with a glove on, with scuba gear, that kind of stuff? We'll see, but they've said all the right things in terms of the hand should be okay.
You think the Bears can have some success running the ball?
I think so. I think the Rams defense has been their Achilles heel. The defense and the special teams. So it's not great when two of the three parts of football are, but the defense, listen, they are going to go after Caleb Williams. There's no doubt about that. When you look at Jared Verse and Brian Fisk, and they are going to try to put pressure on Caleb. Again, as someone who's covered Caleb back to his time at USC, again, you guys have seen it for a while, and certainly in that playoff games, you can get to Caleb. Whether or not you can bring him down is the question. So I think when they blitz, when they try to put pressure on Caleb, those are the moments where I think they could have some success.
So what's going on with this special teams unit? All I'm hearing is how bad it is. And I'm the guy that at training camp, I take a nap during the special teams drills to wait for the next 7-on-7 and 11-on-11s on offense. Like, why can't you guys, why can't the Rams get it figured out on special teams? And is it really that bad of a unit that this is going to play that big of an advantage here on Sunday?
Again, we'll see if it plays a role on Sunday. The beauty of special teams, again, you hope to take a nap. You hope that there's no one talking about a blocked punt, a blocked PAT, a blocked field goal. There was a point going into that Carolina game where you could have said, because of special teams, that's the only reason that the Rams have lost 2 times this season. Again, they've lost a couple of other games more, but Sean McVay during his entire tenure has never fired a coach mid-season. That happened with the special teams coach. And then the very next game against Atlanta, they blocked a punt. So it's not something that the Rams have really thought much about. They probably should. But yeah, I mean, really simple things like field goal blocking, blocking punts. You go to that Seattle game, the return punt for a touchdown. I mean, simple things where, stay in your lane, block, don't make mistakes. So listen, they changed the special teams coach. The special teams has improved since then. We'll see if it plays a factor here on Sunday, but that was not a point of emphasis for McVay. I think now going into next season, hopefully they go out there and they bring in a quality special teams coach, not some, friend of a friend or like a young coach who's looking for a chance to be a part of Sean McVay's staff.
It's at Arash Markazi on Twitter. He's the founder and CEO of the Sporting Tribune. He's a host at KIRN 670, the Bet Las Vegas and the Hawaii Sports Radio Show, which I was watching yesterday. Good, great stuff. Used to be with ESPN, Sports Illustrated, LA Times.
Big time.
It's a better resume than you, buddy. Hey, Arash, thanks so much for making time. Do you do predictions? If you do, go ahead and make one.
Yeah, this is gonna be a tight one. I'm gonna pick Rams 23-20. Would not be shocked if Chicago won. I will tell you, when the Bears are not playing the Rams, I am rooting for Caleb Williams. So I was excited to see him have that big game. And there's nothing better than a game at Soldier Field. Again, I cannot wait for what that stadium is gonna look like. So I will be tuning in. We'll have a reporter out there. We'll have a photographer out there. I will be here in 69-degree weather watching at home.